You know, Indian food is not always about the curries and the naan breads and the vindaloos and the tikka masalas. India is a very diverse country, and each region in India boasts of a very different culture in terms of music, food, even the climate, the kind of produce you know, that is grown in that particular region, the dressing sense of the people. So it's all very different, and each of these states boast of a myriad of delicious and swoon-worthy food. Who doesn't love Indian food, am I right? I always believe that the food mirrors the culture of a particular state. It mirrors the sensibilities, the culinary influences, the history of each cuisine is so different. And I hail from a beautiful city called Chennai in the south of India, in the state of Tamil Nadu. So my food, my love for food comes from my maternal grandmother, who I fondly call Ammamma. She's now 93, and I always looked at her like she was the sort of a magician that whipped up delicious South Indian delicacies, you know, like the Brahmin Iyer style. That's our cuisine. And she always came up with these delicious sambars and filter coffees and vattakorambus, the tokku, the togels. Okay, these dishes are the dishes that you don't find in an average South Indian restaurant. This is a purely vegetarian cuisine, and it's drool-worthy, it's swoon-worthy. I promise you that. It's so exotic. So I want to showcase this cuisine and some of the delicious recipes that I've learned from my Ammamma over the years. Today I feel like making Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu. For the uninitiated, so there is a huge difference between sambar and kuzhambu. If you like your idlis and dosas and sambar, so the sambar is the one with the lentils and the kuzhambu is the one minus the lentils. So what forms the base of the kuzhambu is the tamarind juice. So the tamarind juice is the essential part of this kuzhambu. And of course, Chinna Vengayam in Tamil means the pearl shallots or the French shallots. So these little pearls, you know, I'll show you one. These are the onions that we use for the Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu. So we don't use the big shallots, we use the small pearl ones because they have this very nice sharp notes of acidity and kind of a sharpness to them, and they're bite-sized, so when you have a bit of the kuzhambu with your rice, you can just pop one in your mouth and it'll just burst with flavor. So the Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu, I describe it as a symphony between the pearl shallots, the green chilies. So it's a marriage between the pearl shallots and the green chilies. So these two are going to pair up along with the tamarind juice, and the fourth note, the beautiful note in this combination or this exotic dance is the Jaggery. So for the sweetness, a kind of a caramel sweetness, we use the Jaggery or Vellam, we call it in Tamil. So the tamarind juice, the pearl shallots, the green chilies and the Jaggery are kind of, they achieve this incredible balance to result in a sticky sauce kind of liquid called the Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu. I remember I first made this recipe for my husband, my then fiancé, when he visited our house for the first time since we were engaged. And I asked my grandma, you know, my fiancé loves South Indian food, what do you think I should make for him for lunch? And she said, you should definitely make Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu, because my husband loves this recipe, and I believe I found a way to his heart through this one. Okay, so what I've done here is I've trimmed and peeled the pearl shallots and soaked them in a bit of hot water to just soften them down. So that is going to not make them very hard while you cook them. So this is going to soften them down and just make them pillowy in texture. So for when they cook down and reduce in the kuzhambu, it's going to be very, very nice and juicy. So they've been soaking in for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can do this at the start of your prep. So you've got this covered. And so to prepare the tamarind juice, what I'm going to do is, you get tamarind in any Indian grocery store, or if you don't have time for all the fuss, there are tamarind concentrate pastes bottles available in any of the Indian grocery store. Just feel free to go for it to save time and energy. But on a Sunday, on a relaxed day where you just feel like indulging into the process a bit more, buy tamarind. So this is the tamarind from the tamarind pack that I bought from the Indian store, and my Paatti always says lime-sized tamarind. So that's what we're going to go for. This is like the size of a lime. So I'm going to put this in the bowl, and I'm going to add some just boiled water on it. So we're going to soak 3 to 4 cups of hot water that goes in. The point here is to get the juices out of the tamarind. So this is called preparing the tamarind extract. So traditionally my Ammamma would do it with her hand, and she would kind of let the tamarind shed all its extract into the hot water. So the water is going to turn darker and darker. So I'm going to start the Chinna Vengaya Puli Kuzhambu. I have my heat on just in between a sim to a medium. I'm going to just make it medium. And for most South Indian recipes, we use gingerly oil. So this is like the good oil, and it's really healthy and gives a great note of flavor for any food, like the Kuzhambus particularly. So this is just amazing. It works well with all sorts of Kuzhambus. So I'm adding about 3 teaspoons of oil here. And when that oil is hot, I'm adding my mustard seeds. So this is a sure addition to any sambar or Kuzhambu or kootu or curry. So I've added about 2 teaspoons of mustard seeds in there, and if you can hear that sound, that is crackling, that is like spluttering. So that is the indication that we can go for the next step. The mustard seed spluttering sound in the kitchen is one of the best sounds ever, and it means something great is happening. So now I'm going to add about 2 red chilies. So go easy on the spice if you want, or dial it up. I always dial it up because I love my Kuzhambu beautiful and spicy. This is crushed fenugreek seeds that you can get at any Indian store, and this will add a certain note of bitterness and to the Kuzhambu. And I'm going to add my pearl shallots. Oh my goodness, that tastes amazing. The onions and the fenugreek just getting to know each other in there. And while this is happening, I am also going to add the green chilies. So I'm just going to split them in halves. I'm going to add about 2.5 green chilies. Again, I like my Kuzhambu spicy. If you're not a big fan of too much spice, you can go easy on the green chilies, but I highly recommend you to add 2.5, because Puli Kuzhambu is all about balance of flavor. It has spice, sweet, tanginess from the tamarind juice, the heat from the chili, the sort of a caramel sweet from the jaggery. So it's got to be on point, and to achieve that balance, the spice has to be there. It has to be there. So now I'm going to wait for my onions to sort of caramelize and turn brown. So whenever you cook onions for sambar or Kuzhambu, make sure to add a bit of salt, at least 1/3 of the salt that you're going to add for the dish. So I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of salt here. So the salt is going to make the onions cook faster. I'm also going to add a bit of my jaggery powder. So you get beautiful powdered jaggery in the Indian store. You don't need to go for the solid blocks if it's too much work. So I always go for the jaggery powder, and I'm just sprinkling it on my onions. So the jaggery will now start to caramelize along and just coat the onions. So that's going to lend it a beautiful tinge of sweet. Not sugar sweet, but jaggery sweet. So don't substitute sugar. Please always go for jaggery when you're making puli kuzhambu. And I'm going to crank up the heat a bit more. As my onions are cooking down and caramelizing, I have my tamarind extract ready, and I'm going to filter it down to remove the unwanted fiber and the seeds from the tamarind to just get the clear juice out. So I'm going to take this now and add it to my onions. So this is how it will look. It's going to look watery in the beginning. Don't be afraid, it's going to reduce and it's going to thicken. Now I'm going to crank up the heat to medium. It's time to do so. And while I do this, I'm going to add the favorite part of everyone's great dish of South Indian food, the curry leaves. This will become your best friend. I know a lot of South Indians who first pick out the curry leaves and put it out of their plates, but hey, come on, this is just amazing. And you know another tip, the curry leaves are great for your hair. You can just grow them in your backyard. Just go ahead and just plant a curry leaf pot in your backyard. You're going to get these, and I'm just going to add them to my tamarind juice. I am generous with my curry leaves. I do not hold back, and I do not believe in holding back. So I'm just going to throw a whole sprig of curry leaves in there. If no one eats it, I'm going to eat it. These are locked up family recipes that have been passed on from the mothers, grandmothers, their grandmothers, so on and so forth. And this is soul food dialed up to the maximum, and its health quotient, it's also dialed up to the maximum. It's almost like a food yoga, if you may call it. So now my tamarind juice is beginning to boil, and as it does, I'm going to infuse some more flavors into this. So first of that would be salt. I always believe in using my hands for salt. There is something about not giving it that mathematical measure. Sometimes I just suit it for my palate, and always do not go overboard with the salt. You can always add later. So now I'm just adding one 5-fingerful of salt and another. I think that's going to be enough. And if I need more later, I'll add it later. This is called the Sambar Powder. It is a spice mix that you can get at any Indian store. Any brand is great, MTR or Priya. I'm using Priya right now. My grandma and all makes it fresh. She grinds the spices. So this is made from a beautiful mix of coriander seeds, cumin seeds, curry leaves, pepper, asafoetida, black gram, Bengal gram, and in a separate episode I might actually show how you can make this blend at home. But then now for the puli kuzhambu, you can just go the easy way, not get stressed out, and just buy a nice sambar powder from the Indian store. And I'm going to add a good 2 teaspoons full of sambar powder to my kuzhambu. This is another secret hack that I recently kind of tried, and it worked. One day I didn't have the sambar mix for my puli kuzhambu, and I was wondering what to do, and I just went ahead and I just took a palm full of this and I just added it to my kuzhambu, and lo and behold, it tasted fantastic. And I told my grandma later about it on the phone, and she said, that is a good tip, I think I can try it out at home. Now I'm going to give that a stir. The color looks amazing. So we're aiming for a sort of a dark, rich, pumped up caramel brown over here, like chocolate brown meets caramel brown sort of a color. Puli kuzhambu is reducing So I'll tell you the timeline. So for the quantity I made, it all came to a boil, and I let it boil for around 5 to 7 minutes, and then put it on medium heat for another 7 to 8 minutes, and now it's on low heat, sim, for around 8 minutes. So just give it a good 15 minutes time altogether, because you don't want to rush this. If you want the Puli Kuzhambu to be your best friend, you need to give it time, you need to give it love. Don't be afraid to taste as you cook, because with these kind of recipes, I'm sure every household even has a different variation of the recipes. My grandma's Puli Kuzhambu may not taste like my mother-in-law's Puli Kuzhambu. So it's all different. It's all their kai pakuam. You know, there is a term in Tamil called kai pakuam. So the hands of the maker of the dish speaks a lot. It speaks to the dish. So there a bit of their soul is added to that dish. So when each person does the same recipe, the same measurements, it may still taste different. So don't be afraid to play around and get to know the Puli Kuzhambu very slowly with a lot of patience. The first time it may be a disaster. Don't worry about it. Just go for it another time. And when you taste it as you go, for example, when I was letting it boil, I tasted it. It just tasted a bit too tangy, so then I added a bit of Jaggery powder, a bit of salt, maybe one more green chili just for spice, and just go along until you're happy with how it tastes. So that's how you get to master the recipe. It's not what anyone says. It's you, it's your food. So the very last part before we eat it all, I have a bit of organic rice flour right here. So that's about a tablespoon and a half of organic rice flour. So this is going to help thicken my gravy even more so that it's a bit sticky and really thick. So I'm just going to make a paste of this with a little bit of water and add it to my Puli Kuzhambu. If you can see, there's a huge difference in the Puli Kuzhambu. It's nicely reduced down and the color is a bit darker. It's thickened up a lot, and I'm going to add the paste that I made of rice flour and water to just thicken it up a bit. So this is the final step, and the color will, as you can see, will start to lighten up a bit and the gravy instantly thickens. So just leave this for about a minute on sim, and let's switch off the heat now. Puli Kuzhambu just gets better as each day goes by, and I feel the day after you make it, that's when it tastes the best. It's like wine. The older it gets by the day, the more potent it becomes in taste. You can mix it with hot rice with a lot of ghee, because you want to compensate for all the spice, and if you are not a very spice tolerant person, I advise you put a lot of ghee in your rice, like mix it with your rice and add some Puli Kuzhambu, have it with some appalam, the South Indian wafer, and we also have what is called matchmaking. For example, my grandma would combine the Puli Kuzhambu rice with a nice brinjal or eggplant fry, or you can also eat it as an accompaniment with your curd rice as a finale. So we start with the Kuzhambu or the sambar and finish our meal with the curd rice. I guess this is the magic of family recipes, because these recipes are so intertwined with the dynamics of the family, the people, the good times we've had. And I think these recipes speak a very secret language of the family. The times where they were born and they were improved upon and modified to suit each one's palate, enjoyed at many a dinner table through happiness, through joy, to periods of tiredness and busy schedules, and whatever it is, these recipes are there. The food is there for you. And every time I cook some of these recipes that my Ammamma has taught me, I feel like she's right there beside me and like comforting me and telling me how to do it. I hear her voice in my head. So this kind of food speaks to me, and I make sure that I cook these recipes that run in my DNA for my family, my husband, my daughter, and I make sure these are never lost, these are never forgotten.